definition of honor killing is the murder of an individual, either an outsider or a member of a family, by someone seeking to protect what they see as the dignity and honor of themselves or their family when they think that the individual has violated their or their family's reputation. Most often, it involves the murder of a woman or a girl by male family members due to the perpetrator's belief that the victim has brought dishonor or shame upon the family name, reputation, or prestige. Ironically, female relatives often defend the killings and occasionally even help set them up. Today's case revolves around the death of a young woman allegedly killed by the order of her own family, her own mother and uncle. She's not the first nor the last to be killed in the name of honor, but her story got more attention than most others. Through Jesse's story, I hope we can bring some awareness to more women in similar situations. They say our daughters and sisters are our honor, and our honor is very dear to us. If that is true, then how can you brutally murder your own dear daughters and sisters in the name of said honor? No, daughters and sisters and wives are not objects. They're human beings with feelings and a mind of their own, with every right to live a life they want to, without giving a single thought about your honor if they so choose. They have every right to choose their happiness over your honor. You have no right over them whatsoever. As I'm researching this case, I'm outraged at the family's audacity and the justice system which refused to lift a finger to punish the perpetrators despite there being more than sufficient evidence. It is also mind-boggling. I couldn't believe that this is a true story. It has me riled up. I'm afraid I might go off on a tangent and lose the plot completely. What is worse is, as I said before, unfortunate cases like these are still happening more frequently than you think and are getting little to no attention. I hope, in some small way, this video will change that. So let me tell you Jesse's story. Jesse, Jaswinder Kaur Sidhu, was born on August 4th, 1975, in Maple Ridge, British Columbia. To her family, her birth was nothing remarkable. Reason? She was a girl child. So the path of her life, like her mothers and grandmothers before her, was set by the so-called elders of her family. Just to reiterate how insignificant her birth was, they didn't even register her birth officially till she was a year old. It was simple. Keep her head down, follow the rules, respect your elders, and do as they say. Since childhood, her family did not encourage independent thinking. Even though she grew up in an affluent family, she did not have the freedom to choose anything for herself. She dressed modestly in clothes approved by her family, went to school, and went back home at the end of each day. Her routine was fairly simple. I think even going to school was only so she could learn to read and write. If she couldn't, then they would not be able to marry her off to a highest bidder. Nobody would want a girl who couldn't even read and write. Jessie's wants and needs were never considered. Her life had very little value to begin with. Jessie's mother, Malkit Kaur, and her father, Bakhtur Singh, had immigrated from Punjab's Doaba region to the Canadian West Coast and settled down in Fraser Valley, also known as Canada's Doaba. There, they lived in a joint family with her maternal uncle, Surjit Singh Badesha, undisputed head of Jessie's family and a respected leader of the ever-growing Sikh community in the area. Surjit Badesha and all the extended family in the area joined hands to purchase acres of land in Fraser Valley where they harvested blueberries. The business was going so well, by the time Jessie was in her teenage years, her family was millionaires. They lived in a huge compound. The house had 20 plus bedrooms and a dozen bathrooms. Whole family, as in aunts and uncles and cousins, all lived together. But rules were not the same for everyone. Certainly not for Jessie. Once she finished high school, she was not allowed to attend university, but it was expected that she would earn to support her already millionaire family. So she did. She started working at a beauty salon in her town after graduating from high school. As she was a kind and gentle person, everyone in her salon loved her. She even made few good friends. One highlight of Jessie's life was her trips to India, where she was allowed a bit more freedom than what she enjoyed in her home country, Canada. She visited her village Jagrao in Punjab, where her family was originally from, at least once a year. Even though she did not speak the language well, she understood it enough to get by. She felt more at home among her relatives there, and I suspect received more love and attention than she ever did when she was with her own family. Also, since she was quote-unquote among her own people, there were less restrictions and scrutiny around her general behavior. During one of these visits to India around 1994, Jessie met and fell in love with Sukhwinder Singh Sidhu, known to his family and friends as Mittu. When she traveled back to Canada, she kept in touch with him, and their friendship blossomed into love. Jessie, who was a sheltered 19-year-old at this point, fell hard for Mittu. Throughout her courtship to Mittu, Jessie knew her family would never approve. For one, Mittu belonged to the same Sidhu clan she did, which is a strict no-no in certain beliefs. Second was that Mittu was an auto rickshaw driver. That meant he was not of the same social standing as Jessie's family. They managed to keep their relationship a secret for next 4 years. Mittu says, when Jessie was in India, he used to bring sleeping pills and give it to one of Jessie's aunts, who would put it in the entire family's evening drink, which would put them to slumber. That is how the lovers would meet late at night, away from the prying eyes of her family. Sounds like a scene from a Bollywood movie, isn't it? In 1999, Jessie's family in Canada arranged a marriage for her with one of her uncle's business associates, who was the same age as her 60-year-old uncle. At first, when Jessie told her co-workers about the arrangement, they thought it was a joke. But to Jessie, this was no joke. It was her reality. At this stage, she was losing hope. She couldn't confess in any of her family about Mittu. So she did what she thought was her best case scenario. She convinced her mother to take a trip to India with her. When in India, she secretly married Mittu in a Gurdwara on 15th March 1999. I still don't know where she mustered the courage from. She knew if she was found out, her family would not be happy. She even told her friend that she had to keep the marriage a secret. Her family would kill her if they found out. Haven't we all at some point in our lives said or at least thought the same thing? Oh, if my family knew I was doing something or the other, they would kill me. But not in our wildest dreams do we ever really mean it. They will be mad for a while, sure. Ground you for the foreseeable future, definitely. Take away access to technology or no outings with friends. Any number of these punishments equal, they will kill me. But we all know, at least I did, for sure they'll not do something half as bad. Then you come across some of these horrific stories. These families from hell do exist all around us, only if we pay attention to small details or incidents that happen with people around us. So, Jessie had her secret marriage. Then she traveled back to Canada, continued her work. She would secretly write to Mittu and occasionally send some money to him. Months went by, and her family was putting pressure on her to marry her uncle's old friend. Then, news of her marriage to Mittu reached her uncle. As expected, all hell broke loose. At first, she was offered a new car or money to get her to listen to them. She was already promised to her uncle's wealthy friend. They did not want to miss out on that connection, which would raise their status among the community. When she refused, she was badly beaten by her mother and locked up in a room. After weeks of confinement, Jessie's mother came to her one day and told her they had decided to bring Mittu to Canada to see if they could come to some sort of an understanding. For that, they had to get all the documents ready and signed to arrange his visa. This was better than what Jessie was hoping for. She was so relieved, she signed everything they asked her to. Since most of the documents were in their native language, Punjabi, she of course did not understand what was written in them. Then she waited for any news of Mittu's visa. Days and weeks passed. It was never brought up again. Jessie was still under house arrest at this point and had no access to phone or pen and paper, so she couldn't even write to her husband. One day, one of her cousins told Jessie she was deceived. They were never going to bring Mittu to Canada. The documents she had willingly signed were in fact accusations against Mittu for kidnapping, forcibly marrying, and raping Jessie against her will. And at this very moment, Mittu was in jail under these false charges. This came as a shock to Jessie. She was passive till now, hoping if she was obedient and accepted her punishments, her family would at some point relent and either bring Mittu to Canada or send her to India and most likely wash their hands off of her, never to acknowledge her again. But she was not prepared for what they did to her husband. Once the initial shock wore off, she somehow managed to get access to phone and called the police. When the police arrived, she was ready, explained her situation, and was able to escape her family. Jessie flew to India to be with her husband on 12th May 2000. She was able to convince the authorities in India that the accusations against Mittu were indeed false. But Jessie knew she was still in danger, that her family was not going to give up control over her. She was expecting some sort of retaliation from them. And it came, less than a month later. One late evening on 8th June 2000, Jessie and Mittu were traveling to Mittu's uncle's house. They were on his scooter when they were ambushed. Both of them were badly beaten. Mittu fell unconscious and was left for the dead on the road, while Jessie was kidnapped. Mittu survived. Jessie, though, was not so lucky. She was taken to an abandoned farmhouse nearby, where she was tortured, assaulted, and killed. When her body was discovered next day, on 9th June 2000, her throat was slit. Investigation by the Indian police showed that the killers were in constant contact with her mother and uncle by phone, and it was determined that the order to kill Jessie was given by none other than her mother. You heard that right. Jessie's own mother gave a final go-ahead to slit her daughter's throat for her perceived wrongs against the family. Allegedly, after Jessie was kidnapped, she was allowed a call with her mother in Canada. Jessie begged and pleaded with her mother to let her go, that she would obey her every command and even come back to Canada. They could talk and sort things out. In her desperation, she begged her mother for mercy. Surely, a mother would not kill her own daughter over the choices she made, would she? As Jessie found out, to her misfortune, her mother absolutely would kill her own daughter for daring to go against her family's wishes and dishonoring them by doing so. As a result of an aggressive investigation by Inspector Swaran Singh, local hitmen involved in the killing were arrested, tried, and convicted. It was obvious they had instructions to do the killing by someone influential. Some of the dozen arrested men also confessed that they had received $50,000 as compensation for the murder. It was sent from Canada to a man named Darshan Singh, a close associate and business partner of Jessie's uncle, Surjit Badesha. That's not all. Darshan Singh Sidhu's daughter was married to Surjit Badesha's son. Darshan Singh's call records also showed hundreds of calls between him and Surjit's Canada number days leading up to Jessie's kidnapping and murder. Allegedly, he was the one who arranged for the men who kidnapped and killed Jessie. Darshan Singh Sidhu, was arrested and convicted of conspiracy to murder Jesse and was given a life sentence. But he managed to be out on bail just 2 years later. That's not all. In 2015, he was acquitted in India after a successful appeal and was even granted permanent residency in Canada, having lied about his criminal status on his immigration application. Even though authorities in Canada had thus far done nothing to investigate Jesse's mother and uncle, they could not turn a blind eye on Darshan Singh. He was later declared inadmissible in Canada after his criminal past was revealed. Jesse's mother, Malkit Sidhu, and uncle Surjit Badesha lived a free life for over a decade after the murder. Even after having enough evidence to show their role in conspiracy to commit murder of a Canadian citizen, authorities in Canada allegedly refused to investigate them. Their main concern was that all the evidence they had would not hold up in the Canadian court, even though conspiracy to murder a Canadian citizen, even if the murder itself took place outside of Canada, is still a punishable offense. They also refused to extradite Malkit and Surjit under the pretext that Indian justice system is corrupt and they cannot ensure a fair trial for the pair. 12 years and numerous attempts later, mother and uncle duo were arrested in Canada on 6 January 2012. On May 9, 2014, following court proceedings in the Supreme Court of British Columbia, Justice Gregory Finch ordered Surjit Badesha and Malkit Sidhu to be turned over to Indian police to face trial in India. Their lawyers argued that there was not enough evidence against the pair. Justice Finch justified his decision and said India had presented enough evidence against Malkit Sidhu and Surjit Badesha, including 266 telephone calls between Badesha and the 4 men convicted of killing Jesse. On 24th January 2019, they were both extradited and arrived in Delhi, India to face charges. As I understand, they are both still in jail. Both of them are in their 70s now, and the case against them is still going on. Both Malkit and Surjit deny all charges against them. Jessie was only 25 years old when she was killed. She had only just started her life. Having dreams, aspirations, goals, falling in love is all part of growing up, isn't it? All normal. For most of us anyway. Funnily enough, I've heard of other instances where girls and women were killed for refusing to precisely do what Jessie did. That is, marry a man from their own clan, uncle, cousin, or a friend of a family, who comes from a different social and educational background, who speaks a different language and lives in a different part of the world. So, in honor killing, there are no rules. Or rather, there is one rule. That is family's rule. It doesn't have to make sense. You just have to follow your elders' orders blindly, or death is your penance for sullying your family's honor. We can rant and rave about the unfairness of it all, call it cruel, heartless, and whatnot. We can exhaust every word in our dictionary, but that won't make any difference to people hell-bent on bending or breaking their daughters to their own will in the name of honor. And that's the video for today. Thank you for being a part of it. If you want to spread awareness, please share the video with your friends and family. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Check out my older videos if you're interested in true crime stories. I will see you in the next one.